vedanā-citta-saṃjñānāṃ saṃskārāṇāṃ ca sarvaśaḥ sarveṣāmeva bhāvānāṃ rūpeṇaiva samaḥ kramaḥ.
vedanā-citta-saṃjñānāṃ saṃskārāṇāṃ ca sarvaśaḥ sarveṣāmeva bhāvānāṃ rūpeṇaiva samaḥ kramaḥ. MMK chapter 4 verse 7. For feeling, mind and perceptions, and for karma formations, indeed for all things, the progression is completely the same as for physicality. Speaking of karma formations, I don't know if you heard the French Air Force there, whizzing over, flying low, as they do over this forest from time to time, providing quite a great contrast between how quiet it generally is and then how extremely noisy it is when one of those fighter jets flies over. Sometimes I have to literally cover my ears. That one wasn't so bad. So, for feeling, mind and perceptions, and for karma formations. So feeling, vedanā, citta, mind, perceptions, saṃjñā, and karma formations, saṃskārāṇāṃ. Those, together with rūpa, physicality, are the 5 constituents that the 5 constituents reflecting on which helps us to realise there's no such thing as an independently existing self. That's why the Buddha described the self as 5 constituents, not because it's important to think of constituents as non-empty things, of course, although it's easy to go down that mistaken path. The point is to reflect that what we think of as being our self is empty, and that kind of reflection is aided by contemplating these 5 skandhas, 5 components, as it were, of a self. So we've got a genitive plural, so it's of those. So first is the first paragraph is a compound, vedanā, feeling, citta, mind, and saṃjñā means perceptions, but here it's the whole compound is genitive plural, so saṃjñānāṃ is genitive plural. So for, so genitive means for or of. vedanā-citta-saṃjñānāṃ, of feeling, mind and perceptions, or for feeling, mind and perceptions. And then second pada, saṃskārāṇāṃ cha. So saṃskārāṇāṃ is genitive plural of samskara, which I've translated here as karma formations. Since we're talking about components or constituents, the sense of something formed from other things, formed from karma, seems to work well. In other contexts, doings or confections, in the sense of mental constructs or fabrications, it works well. So samskaras are confected really out of ignorance by bodily action, by mental action, and by speech. So karma formations has got the advantage of being a translation which the Pali scholars don't object to, because if you look in a Pali dictionary by Venerable Nyantali-Kola, if I remember the name right, a famous German monk who worked in Sri Lanka mainly, I think, and made the Pali Buddhist English Dictionary. He translates as karma formations, and it works well enough in most contexts. So, vedanā-citta-saṃjñānāṃ saṃskārāṇāṃ cha, for feeling, mind and perceptions, and cha, for karma formations. Sarvaśaḥ means altogether, in the round. I've taken that as being modifying the in the sense of completely. I've taken it with samaḥ in the fourth pada, so completely the same. Then the third pada, sarveṣām eva bhāvānāṃ. So sarveṣām means all, genitive plural again, and bhāvānāṃ means existences, again genitive plural. So bhava means existence or existent thing. So generally speaking, I translate it in MMK as things. Existing things would be help to discriminate it more. So we also have a word like artha, which means object or thing. I translated it earlier on as a thing of substance, because artha doesn't have the same connotation of something that belongs to the eternity view, a self-existing thing. So in verse 2, we had the word artha. Nowhere without cause is there anything of substance. Nachastyartha kaschid ahetukaha kvachid. Nowhere without cause is there anything of substance. So the retired racehorse over there is a thing of substance. It's not an existent thing, because an existent thing is denied by the Buddha as being belonging to the eternity view. And clearly it's not a non-existent thing. It's bloody obvious that there is a racehorse there. So it's a thing of substance. And in that sense, artha means object or real thing. So in this case, bhāvānāṃ, well, it means things. Sarvaśaḥ eva bhāvānāṃ. So the eva is emphatic, translated indeed. Indeed, for all things. Okay. So, rūpeṇaiva samaḥ kramaḥ. The progression, kramaḥ. So kramaḥ, nominative singular masculine, literally means a step, and hence a progression, a method, a manner. But really the progression in question is from bhava as an existent thing, or rupa as a body, or matter, a non-empty conception. Then the progression is from that to an empty conception. And so that's the progression. And the progression for all the skandhas, and indeed for all things, the progression is completely the same. Sarvaśaḥ. So sarvaśaḥ is adverbial. So sarvaśaḥ, samaḥ, completely the same as physicality. So sama, the same as, takes the instrumental, so rupa goes to rūpeṇa, and then the emphatic eva, rūpeṇaiva. So sarvaśaḥ and aiva together mean completely. Sarvaśaḥ rūpeṇaiva samaḥ kramaḥ. The progression, kramaḥ, is completely the same. Sarvaśaḥ rūpeṇaiva, as for physicality, rūpeṇaiva. So again, why is this important? Reflecting on that this morning as I was practicing Zazen. Think about the meaning first of vedanā, feeling. So vedanā is the, what number is it? I have to go through the chain of dependence arising again. There's ignorance is number one. Depending on ignorance, there's samskāras, as in this verse, karma formations, things that are confected out of ignorance. Depending on samskāras, there is divided consciousness, vijnana. Depending on divided consciousness, there is psychophysicality, nama rūpam. So rūpam again is one of the skandhas. And if you take nama as it representing the psycho side as being equivalent to citta, the mind, that's another one of the skandhas. So depending on psychophysicality, there is 6 senses. Depending on 6 senses, there is contact, number 6. Depending on contact, there is feeling, vedanā, number 7. So 7th in the chain, independent arising of suffering. And if you look at one of those nice Tibetan mandalas, it's visually represented by somebody with an arrow going into his eye. So in that sense, the feeling in question is suffering, pain. And in fact, if you look in a dictionary for vedanā, one of the meanings is pain and suffering. But in chapter 26, it says, vedanā pratyaya trishna vedanārtam hi trishyate. With feeling, dependent on feeling, there is thirsting, because the object of feeling, vedanārtam, trishyate, is thirsted after. So that suggests the kind of feeling, you have in sensual contact, which is an object that one thirsts after. So vedanā includes both meanings. As I was reflecting on it, I remembered something I'd read in Marjorie Barlow's book. Which in fact is interesting, because she kind of posed a question, speaking from her experience. She posed a question, and I think emptiness might have been the answer she was looking for. So this is the book, An Examined Life by Marjorie Barlow, in conversation with Trevor Allen Davies. And when I was having lessons with Marjorie Barlow, she would often refer to my book, and this is the book which she meant. Marjorie's book, what she said, my book, she meant this book. So after Marjorie's death, Sean Carey has written a couple of books of his experience with Marjorie Barlow, and I haven't read them, but I did express, in a way that didn't win me any friends, my resentment that that book that Sean Carey wrote, people on a training course, they talk about Marjorie's new book. Well, was it hell Marjorie's new book? This is Marjorie's book. She didn't know about Sean Carey's book, as far as I know. She certainly never referred to it as her book. So I feel that for people to refer to Sean Carey's book as Marjorie's book is not right. And then when I mentioned that to Sean Carey, rather than just saying, yeah, I agree with you, he sort of said why he thought, he sort of justified it, the claim that it's Marjorie's book by this way and that way. And so that really pissed me off. And of course, that had a lot to do with my own background in terms of the injustice of attributing books falsely. So it was a combination. You might say my reaction was so strong and inappropriate as an effect that was dependently arisen from, not from any causes, but it was dependently arisen. So I'm not saying my reaction was right or wrong, but anyway, the point I would like to emphasise is what I can report in all honesty is that when Marjorie Barlow talked about my book, she was talking about the book she wrote with Trevor Allen Davies, and she was always always referred to Trevor with real love and affection. It was a joint effort between two friends. It was like that. So the thing that I was so clear about is she called it my book. She took possession of it. It was her book. And Sean Carey's book, she never said that was her book. She wrote this with Trevor. You see, it's a totally different thing. So you shouldn't ever say that Sean Carey's book is Marjorie's book. I've hammered that point home enough. So that here's the paragraph from Marjorie's book that I wanted to refer to. She told Trevor, "I used to get this terrible pain under my right shoulder blade if I'd been overworked. It used to come on in the night, and I always did something to get away from it. One night I sort of woke up in the real sense and thought, you're crazy. You teach people if they've got a pain to stay with it and not do anything, and here you are running away. So I just lay there ordering, and it became more and more acute until I could hardly bear it, and it went away, and I've never had it since." Trevor asks, "All in that one night?" Marjorie answers, "Yes, in that one night, because I'd faced the fact that I'd been dodging it, doing something to get away from it, so I really had it. There's a lesson somewhere there, isn't there? There's a lesson somewhere, isn't there? It needn't be a pain in your shoulder. It can be a pain in your heart." So what Marjorie's talking about there is vedanā, feeling. And because Alexander talked about our feeling being debauched, there are some people in the Alexander work who are kind of prejudiced against feeling, and then there are others who on the other side who feel it's really important not to deny feelings. And again, the sort of the discourse is clarified a lot by the understanding that feeling is empty. So if we affirm feeling or negate feeling as a non-empty thing, that's the eternity view and the view of annihilation. That's precisely what the Buddha was talking about. So once you recognise that feeling is empty, or feelings are empty, then that debate doesn't really arise. It's not a question of either affirming or negating feelings. So feelings are real, just like the physicality of the racehorse is real, or my physicality is real. Feelings are real because they're empty. So when Marjorie was talking about her habit of running away from the pain, that was a kind of prapancha. That's just as I described in relation to the previous verse. That's what Nishijima Sensei did. See, in my 20s, Nishijima Sensei had a daughter. He had two daughters, one biological and one adopted. He didn't have any sons. So when I arrived on the scene, about the same age as his daughter, he couldn't help having the idea that I might become not only his Dharma heir, but also his son. In fact, I heard that. I forget where I heard it from, but anyway, I asked him about it man to man, did he have that idea? And he said, in a sort of way that Jordan Peterson affirms, he told the truth. He couldn't tell a lie. So he said, if I had that idea, I would never say it. Which is true, but obviously indirectly he's admitting that he had the idea. So, in a sense, so later on, maybe a couple of years later in his office, as I was leaving, he sort of put his glasses back on, because he used to take his glasses off to read, short-sighted. So, but to look at me as I was going, he put his glasses back on, and he kind of said almost to himself, partly to me, "I am losing my successor." And I thought, what the hell are you talking about? But when I reflect on it, he hadn't recognised anything. But in his way of seeing the world, harsh facts, a bit like George Soros, harsh objective facts have to be realised as they are, whether you like them or not. So he was almost too willing to see things that he didn't want to happen. He was mentally prepared for seeing everything as it is. It was his mind as a lawyer and a businessman. Reality is harsh, and you have to see things as they are. And when I look back on it, that's what he was doing. He was seeing what was empty as a fact, as it was, that it was up to him to accept it, because that's just reality. So that's what we all do in our ignorance. And even Marjorie, that's what she's describing, I think, there. She had this pain in her shoulder would arise, and she'd do something. She'd get up and go and make a cup of tea, because she wanted to. There was this thing which she wanted to avoid. But when she just, it's the indirectness, you see, of ordering. Ordering or giving orders means thinking but not doing. Let the neck be free, to let the head go forward and up, to let the back lengthen and widen. Let the neck be free, to let the head go forward and up, to let the back lengthen and widen, sending the knees forwards and away. I'm somewhat digressing here, but since we're talking about physicality, I made a mark and then dropped the bookmarks, but on page 310, I noticed something which is very relevant to this discussion of physicality the exploration of physicality we've been doing in this chapter. This is the reminiscences of Alan Rowland's recollections from Marjorie's training course. Marjorie said, "Go on working until the whole body is informed with thought, as FM put it. Then the back is thinking, the legs are thinking, the arms are thinking, the hands are thinking. So much less work for the poor old brain." So, Sabakaya pati samvedi asasi samiti sikati. One trains oneself thinking with the awareness that Sabakaya, the whole body, pati samvedi. Prati, reflective, back, sam, together, integral, vedi, awareness. So, Sabakaya pati samvedi, and the whole body is informed with thought. For me, they're in two different languages, they're exactly the same bloody thing. So, go on working until the whole body is informed with thought. That is precisely what the Buddha's expressing in the Sutra on Mindfulness there. And then, the next stage is dropping off body and mind. But that's facilitated by the back is thinking, the legs are thinking, the arms are thinking, and the hands are thinking. so much less work for the poor old brain. So what she's describing there is a condition where you've got the whole body informed with thought, and then you're free to act. In Marjorie's teaching of me, the action in question would be move a leg. In exploration of which the most important thing was saying no to moving the leg. Before that, you saying no to trying to be right, saying no to trying to do the directions, and then really saying no, really meaning no, I'm not going to move the leg. And then I'm free for the whole body really to continue being informed with thought. And out of that freedom in which the whole body is informed. See, when the whole body is informed with thought, you're not in a hurry to move the leg. You're enjoying the whole body being informed with thought. And then an action can be taken or not taken or taken to move the leg. So that's what we're talking about, physicality. Real, true physicality is an effect. It's not a self-existing effect, but it is dependently arisen from, in the case of Alexander work, from thinking. And this is the point. See, the foundation of Nishijima Sensei's teaching, absolutely principle number one, was the absolute gulf between thinking and reality. You see, that's Zen realism. But what emptiness means is there is no gulf between anything and anything. In Zen realism, thinking is thinking, reality is reality. So when I started realizing what the teaching of Alexander was, if you really want to have what's thought of as good posture, then the whole thing is an exercise in learning what thinking is. When I reported that back to Nishijima Sensei, he perceived that I'd gone to the other side of the gulf, that I was on the side of thinking. So out of that ignorance, all the rest of the problems arose from that. But what FM meant by thinking summed up lovely in that one little paragraph. Go on working, working to work. Thinking is work. Go on working until the whole body is informed with thought. That means working means inhibiting and directing. You see, working in the context of a lesson with Marjorie was she would ask me to move the leg and I would say no, that's inhibition. And what I was saying no to was my own idea that I've got to move the leg. So that's inhibition. And then I would think, let the neck be free, forward and up, to let the back lengthen and widen out over the table, sending the knees up to the ceiling. And again, the impulse will be there to move the leg. I know I've got to move it at some point, but no, I don't want to be in a hurry to move the leg. I'll go back to my directions again. So that's working. Sometimes that would go on in silence. And then I remember Marjorie saying, there's a lot of work going on there. I wasn't saying anything, she wasn't doing anything, she was just watching me. But she could tell that I was doing the work. And the work was primarily inhibition. Really meaning it. Really saying no to the idea, in the first instance, the idea of being right or wanting to please the teacher, which is hard enough. And then thinking the directions without doing them. So saying no to the idea of doing the directions. And then the idea of moving the leg. You're conscious at some point you are going to move the leg, but you keep saying no, because if you think you might move it, you'll mess up the work of directing. Alexander talks about more than 50%. Your desire to inhibit has got to be more than 50% of your desire to do the action. Go on working until the whole body is informed with thought, as FM put it. Then the back is thinking, the legs are thinking, the arms are thinking, the hands are thinking. So much less work for the poor old brain. So, vedanā-citta-saṃjñānāṃ saṃskārāṇāṃ ca sarvaśaḥ sarveṣām eva bhāvānāṃ rūpeṇaiva samaḥ kramaḥ. For feeling, mind and perceptions, and for karma formations, indeed for all things, the progression is completely the same as for physicality. So once you've understood in what sense this physical body, this physicality is empty, the progression from the wrong conception of a non-empty thing to a true conception of what is empty is the same for everything. It's the same for feeling or for feelings. See, if you go back, the progression is the same. So, if you go back to the first verse, rūpa-karana nirmuktam na rūpam upalabhyate. Cut loose from what causes physicality. Physicality is not obtained. So cut loose from what causes feeling. Feeling is not obtained. Rūpeṇapi nirmuktam drishyate rūpa-karanam. Equally, cut loose from physicality. What causes physicality is not seen. So equally, cut loose from feeling. What causes feeling is not seen. And finally, just a couple of cross references to, first of all, to chapter 26, verse 8, where Nagarjuna says, Pancha skanda sacha bhavaha. So the 5 skandhas, the 5 constituents, are bhava, becoming. So sa bhava, becoming itself. The sa is emphatic, or it means that becoming. Pancha skandaha sacha bhavaha. The 5 constituents, the 5 skandhas, cha is and the 5 skandhas, sa bhavaha, they're becoming itself. So this is in the part where he's talking about the is it the 9th? So vedana is 7. Depending on vedana, there is thirsting, which is 8. Depending on thirsting, there is upadana, clinging, which is 9. Depending on clinging, there's bhavaha, 10. So becoming. So he says, in the section on becoming, he says, the 5 aggregates are becoming itself. So it's not that physicality is becoming. Not when we've made the progression, the kramaḥ, from non-empty conception to what is real or empty. But what's becoming is the conception of 5 components or 5 constituents before we've made the progression, if you like. So sarveṣām eva bhāvānāṃ means for all existent things, for all non-empty things. So the same word, it can be either side of the progression. So vedana, it can mean feelings that we attach to and run away from, as Marjorie just described, running away from a feeling. But it can also be feeling that's explored as what is empty. And then similarly in Soundarananda by Ashvaghosha, Canto 18, verse 15, the enlightened Nanda tells the Buddha, again, the 5 skandhas, beginning with rupa, physicality, I see to be inconstant and without substance, as well as unreal and life-negating. Therefore I am free from those pernicious constructs. So you see, Nanda's telling the Buddha, and the Buddha's affirming him, that the teaching of the 5 skandhas, the 5 skandhas are 5 convenient fictions. They're fictions that were convenient for the Buddha to make up, to help us reflect on the unreality of an individual self-existing self. So there's the difficulty. The same word physicality, it can express a non-empty conception of a body which is pernicious, but it can also express the empty reality of what it is to be here embodied. And the same is absolutely the same is true of feeling, mind, perceptions, and karma formations. See, if we're following the teaching of non-doing, if we're not careful, we're afraid of shoveling manure and carrying it in buckets to the compost heap, because that's, you know, it's a sort of it's lower down the pecking order to be doing menial physical tasks. But karma formation, samskaras, are what we do born of ignorance. That's the starting point of studying karma formations. So doings, in that sense, are the second link in the chain of the dependent arising of suffering. Doings are very much implicated with suffering. But ultimately, you can use the same word, karma formations, for having the whole body informed with thought and moving a leg. So that doing could also mean action itself, following the progression from non-empty conceptions born of ignorance to exploring, shall we say, exploring what's empty.
vedanā-citta-saṃjñānāṃ saṃskārāṇāṃ sarvaśaḥ sarveṣāमेव bhāvānāṃ rūpeṇaiva samaḥ kramaḥ.